Everybody, thank you so much for coming back to the channel as we continue our series in the book of Acts. Today we're in Acts chapter 17 and 18. And here we are going to cover how this is regarding Paul's travels. From really here on out until the end of the book of Acts, we're going to cover a lot of Paul's travels and his work. But in these two chapters in particular, Paul is going to show us how we should labor as Christians. What should our labor look like? Yes, we should have a passion for Christ. Yes, we should preach the gospel. Yes, we need to reach the lost world. But how do you do it? And Paul here shows us very clearly in Acts chapter 17 and Acts chapter 18 what that process looks like. It's being kind, but also being fearless when preaching the truth. Yes, we have to be kind. No, you have to understand that a lot of the lost world doesn't know Christ as their Savior. They don't understand the sacrifice that Christ had made for us on the cross. And so we have to be kind to their situation, just as God was kind to us, to keep us alive until the gospel came into our lives. But we also have to be fearless, which means there's also a lot of doctrines out there, and people cling to their separate doctrines just as we do. But are you going to be fearless in how you present the gospel in a kind way to those that are lost? We see this in two separate examples. In Acts chapter 17, you're going to see Paul at Athens, or Paul in Rome. And here, I want you to look at Acts 17, 22 and 23. This is how he presented the gospel to them. He said, "Then Paul stood in the midst of Mars Hill and said, Ye men of Athens, I perceive that in all things ye are too superstitious. Being kind, but firm and fearless." Verse 23. "For as I passed by and beheld your devotions," so he was watching them. He knew what they were doing. "I found an altar with this inscription, To the unknown God, whom therefore ye ignorantly worship. Him declare I unto you." So here he's saying, I know what you do. I've sat here. I've watched it happen. You even have an idol here to an unknown God. Well, let me tell you about that unknown God. He's being kind, but yet he's also being fearless, challenging their beliefs. And in Acts chapter 17, you will see his process of going through to Rome. Acts chapter 18, now we see him move on to Corinth, and at the end of the chapter, he goes back to Antioch. Well, while in Corinth, of course, if you know 1st and 2nd Corinthians, a church was started there. They had a lot of doctrinal issues. They had a lot of sin in the church that Paul had to address in 1st Corinthians, and of course, he applauded them for making those changes in 2nd Corinthians. But here in Corinth, the church was just being created. And if you look at Acts 18, 5 and 6, this is how he approached them. It says, "And when Silas and Timotheus were come from Macedonia, Paul was pressed in the Spirit and testified to the Jews that Jesus was Christ." Meaning the Spirit said, it's time to preach. And if you've been witnessing for any amount of time, you know exactly what that feels like. Verse 6, "And when they opposed themselves and blasphemed, he shook his raiment and said unto them, Your blood be upon your own heads. I am clean. From henceforth I will go unto the Gentiles." In verse 7, "And he departed thence." We're not here to get in arguments. We're not here to get in fights. We are here to present the gospel. If they are going to blaspheme and they are not going to receive Christ, move on. Shake the dust off your feet. There's millions of more people who need you to go reach them. So we see Paul, being a Christian, teaching us how we need to be a witness for Christ in Acts 17 and Acts 18. Read through those chapters this week. I hope this is a help. Be kind, be fearless, but be a preacher. Take care. Till we talk again.